Hello, everyone. Good day. My name is Nathan Kalosa-Kenyon. I'm the founder over here at Canosa Consulting and I guess you could say, brains behind FPDS, Federal Procurement Data Science. And this video is going to be the first in a series of videos going over the utility and use cases for our flagship product, FPDS. Little bit of background on me. I've spent the last 5 years operating around some of the fastest growing companies in America, notably one of the most profitable startups in the world. We helped small businesses get tax credits during COVID, such as WOTC, ERC, and the Payment Protection Program. Partnered with over 100 banks, small and national level banks, to create credibility around our business. My claim to fame was a market depreciation analysis through what is called secret shopping. It's a competitive analysis technique where you interview other businesses to get a feel for what it is that they're charging and how they're operating internally. That turned around and justified our co-founder and chief marketing officer's $250 million marketing expansion. From there, we did a little over $1.5 billion in revenue, and it became one of the most profitable startups in history. From there, I dropped into another highly regulated market, which is government contracting, which, as an analyst at heart, I'm very grateful to be operating in, as all of this data is public. Long story short, FPDS aims to disambiguate federal procurement data. As everybody may know, all of the information is public. None of it is synthesized. We've all spent time analyzing raw contract rows, trying to dissimulate what the government is up to and how our business may fit in. The government itself doing retroactive analysis on its procurement activities and how they align with their strategy, budget appropriations, and regulatory bodies, etc. And of course, if you're in private equity, analyzing the internal functionality of a company is, I'm not going to say quite simple, but very well defined. And the analysis that it takes to measure the integrity of the programs that the business is participating in as it pertains to federal procurement is still very much a manual process. So what is FPDS? Our mission is to disambiguate federal procurement data. Who is it for? Anybody and anyone operating in or around federal contracting. So, this video will be an overview of our tool's utility and a little bit of the background on why we built it. We will not be going into any in-depth tool use today or demonstrations. This will simply be an overview of what exists and why. Later on in this series, we will dive into the more granular information about how this was built, what tools we used to build it, what methods and techniques were used to gain all of this synthesized data, and of course, putting together, or I guess connecting the utility to the use case, and of course, diving into all of the different tools that we have built, and all of the different methods and functions that come along with that. So, without further ado, we're going to just dive into a few examples of what this has the capability of doing and why each tool exists. So long story short, all of this starts with aggregating the raw data. So, here I am on sam.gov. I can pull into their data services, go into contract opportunities, pull up their daily opportunities, go to historical, and download stuff all the way back from 1999. Well, what if I wanted to see the stuff from today? I would go into, I believe it is archived data, if I'm not mistaken. and you can come in here and see all of the opportunities from every single fiscal year. I have pulled a raw sheet that I don't believe I'm screen sharing on, but we've all seen it, so I'm not going to, entertain that row. Aggregating everything from sam.gov, of course, USA spending, or better yet, the Federal Procurement Data System. Things like the Government Accountability Office reports, Congressional Research Service, etc., etc. I can pull up my source database to kind of walk through everything that we pull in to our direct and peripheral view. Let me move the camera over here just a little bit so we can see. Of course, we have bills, we have grants, we have different budget documents, we have the CFR, we have congressional hearings. So when the budget committee gets together to talk about Army procurement or whatever, what was actually said by the congressperson, kind of appropriating money or justifying the procurement of some form of, defense-related item. We can pull all of the linguistics from there. I won't go in too deep, but downloaded documents is an aggregation of every single document that's been posted publicly by the government that isn't in a dedicated database. So, for example, that would be CBJs, so congressional budget justifications, strategy reports, and other things of that nature. We pull in news sources. We pull in things from the FAC, which is the audit committee. So when a contractor gets audited by the government for some reason, we have all of the kind of retroactive analysis of that audit, all of the language that they use to really draw that information about what's happening in their business. Along with, of course, prime awards, NAICS codes, things from GSA, the SAP, SBIR awards. You get the point. We pull in everything under the sun to disambiguate federal procurement and draw patterns over all of this data. Now, that's kind of an overview of everything that we're storing. Of course, I can post a public list of what we source if anybody is interested. But that would take me into the actual website now, where we can go over some of the tooling that is available. So this is obviously the homepage. I can pull over to the docs. Now, for those who are not maybe so technically advanced, API and MCP and SDK are developer tools. People are probably familiar with MCP these days because Anthropic and OpenAI and DeepSeek and all these other tools are blabbing around about how AI can interface with your APIs through MCP and all this other stuff. But SDK stands for Software Development Kit. Basically, it gives the developer who's building custom applications basically a template for how to use our data. And an API is an application programming interface, which just tells the computer how to interface with a particular application or program. In this case, it would be our Postgres database. Now, I'll move the camera over to the side here so we can overview all of these tools. Now, I'm just going to do a very simple overview here. Not going too granular. That's what the rest of this series is supposed to do. So, first and foremost, this is a REST API. You can look that up yourself. Like, I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. Long story short, this page will give you all of the different formats and techniques and filters and rate limits and tool families at a glance, so you can kind of come up to speed on how you may be interfacing with our data. Discovery and navigation, this is obviously where you want to be at first, so that you're not doing any guesswork. This is what will give you the ability to see all of the parameters of which you can query by, and some of the limitations in all the data sets that are available. First one in here is spending and market structure. So Family B. Family B is what used to be our open source analytics. We have since limited the amount of open source tooling that there is. We did pilots with some companies and some other analysts, and found out that we should be charging some money for this. So long story short, it's 91 pre-computed analytical data sets over 17 domains covering pricing, competition, concentration of markets. So, how many competitors are in a particular space so that you're not betting into a walled garden. Different pipelines, acquisition flows, product service codes, topics, contacts, meaning contracting officers, program executives, and other employees of the government that might be interfacing or influencing these contracts that come out. As well as incumbent analysis, set-aside analysis, so on and so forth. An example of a customer profile here would be pulling, say, DHS, their historical award corpus for everything related to their set-aside dynamics, to their pricing trends. Do they use firm fixed price? Do they use cost type? Do they use cost plus? Do they use time and materials? Things like that. The competition landscape, how many of their contracts go out for compete, what is their main set-aside preference? Is it VOSB? Is it SDVOSB? Is it 8A? Is it WOSB? Is it hub zone? Is it tribal? Whatever that may be. What is their vehicle mix? Are they usually pushing contracts through an already established large contract vehicle or directly awarding? You guys get the point. Long story short, you have a list of the 17 domains. There are anywhere between 2 or, see 1 and 7 or 12, different counts of data sets within these domains. Why? It just makes it easier. There's different types of analysis that you might want to do once you get into one of these domains, etc., etc. So, next family here would be vendor intelligence. This is very important when it comes to competitive analysis or the government itself analyzing its vendor ecosystem, for lack of a better term. Private equity wanting to analyze different companies, contractor or consultants looking for their next customer, etc., etc. Vendor profiles give you a snapshot of basically who is this vendor's main customer, what types of contracts do they work on, how much money is going into their business. You guys get the point. What industries are they in? How diversified is their contract set? In order to do something like this, you would come to USA Spending, search the award data transactions, and go into the recipient tab and type something like Lockheed Martin, So I can do Lockheed Martin, and then I would click submit. And this is probably going to take a minute because they're one of the largest contractors out there. They have almost 700,000 awards. To the analysts out there, how bad does it suck to go over 700,000 rows of data, of which 90% of it might not even matter to you? And you just want a snapshot of how many obligations do they have? What types of NAICS codes do they work in? Where is their work most concentrated? You cannot answer any of those questions without spending days or weeks in the raw data files. There's not another application that does what FPDS does today, which is it pre-computes all of the really fucking hard questions to answer. Pardon my language, but not really. In any case, coming back to this, right? You can pull vendor profiles. You can pull comparisons between vendors. So say you want to compare Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and the Missile Defense Agency. You can do that. No manual analysis. You can look at their keyword vendor profile. This is all of the words and phrases that are associated with their business, which we'll get to in a little bit. Topic intelligence. This one is incredibly fucking crucial to our platform. For anybody that doesn't know, BERT Topic is a machine learning stack that uses, like I said, a stack of different algorithms to perform linguistic analysis over large text data. So, the best example I could give Imagine you put a post up on social media about your new restaurant, and there are 50,000 comments on your post. The owner of that business can't possibly sit there and read all 50,000 comments, no matter how bad they want to say that they do for marketing purposes. It's just a lie. They're not sitting there reading 50,000 comments. So what do? You can employ BERT Topic to create little segments of, wow, this food truck has awesome marketing stickers. Oh, I've been here before. The food's great. Oh, I know you from high school. Congratulations. And there's, different groupings of topics within that 50,000 comment section that can be extrapolated and analyzed more simply. So, long story short, what type of endpoints do we have available for these topics? Well, you can search different topics. So, long story short, as it applies to the FPDS, we have trained over 600 topic models across everything that the government has said related to procurement. That means that we have built topic models over different fiscal years, over different industries, over different vendor types, over different customers, over different bodies of government, right? So take the Government Accountability Office, for example. They post anywhere between 2-page to 100-page long reports about how to hold agencies accountable for their wrongdoings or their performance. And in order to extract the information that is important to your business, instead of hopping on GAO and using their BM25 search, best match 25, not going to explain it here, but look it up. They will match your keywords to different documents. But that doesn't exactly mean that the document's important to you, right? So this is another more intelligent form of traversal over large text data. So you can find what you need very quickly. It also explains what the government's talking about rather than fitting to their predefined taxonomy, like a PSC code or a NAICS code or whatever type of report that they're putting out. So you can think of a drop-down filter, and then you only have so many selections, but what happens when what you're looking for doesn't show up in that filter? BERT Topic gives you everything that they're actually discussing, and then you can traverse more transparently, I guess would be the better word. So by this time, I'm sure you've already paused the video and seen all the endpoints that you can look through. Of course, our MCP tools wire into all of these topic intelligences as well. This is definitely one of the coolest parts of the platform. I will be making a video on this in depth as well, where we go over why we trained 600 models, what the breakup of those 600 models are, and kind of the ideology and methods and techniques that we use to get to that point. So the next piece is our knowledge graph. Now, we have 3 different types of knowledge graphs in FPDS. Okay, to summarize them, FK joins, which is just a way to create a knowledge graph natively in Postgres, right? So there's a company called Neo4j. They have their own knowledge graph based database architecture, but that can be directly applied in Postgres using FK joins. That just means, say, vendor connected to agency, agency connected to contract, vendor connected to document, right? So if there's an audit document and the vendor was mentioned in that document, you don't have to guess at it. There's a literal connection between the vendor and that audit. Make sense? Cool. Topic assignments. So once you train your topic models, you have to retroactively transform all of those extrapolated topics back to the source material, okay? And then there is our polymorphic keyword graph, which, as you can see here, is just as it sounds. Imagine you took a dictionary and you said, how many times does the word, I don't know, let's keep it to defense. Missile defense appear across congressional budget hearings, budget justifications, government accountability office reports, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force procurement, different solicitations. And with just one query, you can see every single document where that word is connected to it. That is not the same as BM25 search, because then you can then apply all of the dollars associated with that keyword, document types associated with that keyword or phrase, etc., etc. We'll go over this in more detail here, but long story short, you can search different keywords. You can analyze different keywords. So, what is the surrounding text material in the congressional budget justification where missile defense is mentioned? Or what is the dollar amount associated with this exact keyword or phrase? Now, I don't want to get it twisted. In the procurement of an item, the government may use the actual product or service, more literal, granular description of their missile defense capabilities, and then assign it to that procurement where we're just saying how many times or how many dollars or contracts are associated with the literal word missile defense. Okay? You can compare different keywords. How frequently are they mentioned in certain documents or different corpus material? Keywords versus topics. Bidirectional keyword topic bridge. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail. Keyword neighbors. Since we embed the actual keywords, we can do semantic analysis over those. We can also see the frequency of keywords mentioned next to each other in certain documents, very complicated, blah, blah, blah. And then we can do temporal analysis, which basically if you took a bar chart and said the keyword missile defense was mentioned more often in 2010 than it was in 2016, blah, 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 you get the point. So long story short, these are the parameters you can query by. You can deep dive into these keywords. You can compare them. Our MCP tools wire up to it, obviously. So next piece in here is the contract pipeline. What was awarded to whom, through what vehicle, and when does it expire? The most, I guess, right now popular or buzzwordy thing in all of the GovTech scene. So all of the workflow automation tools that are trying to sell you these different workflow automation tools will say, we calculate all the recompete opportunities. Well, you don't know if an opportunity is going to recompete. So it's really just contract expiration. What we do is we analyze the modification history in the program budget and the vendor audits to paint a picture of how likely might this contract go out for recompete. If it's just a singular contract award for a very small line item and the contract expires in 6 months, you may not want to reach out to the contracting officer because there's no modification history. They didn't exercise their option years. It's being, put through a closed vehicle that you don't have access to, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, you can search by solicitation numbers, so tracing the expiring opportunity back to its original RFP. Different modifications, so how many times did a contract get a modification to it before it expires? How many option years were exercised? You can search by the PID. You can search using just keywords, blah, blah, blah. Wires into our MCP tools as well. Now, semantic search. Semantic analysis is not new. Semantic analysis has been around for over a decade. And semantic analysis is just the analysis of meaning As simple as I could put it. Long story short, every single piece of text material that comes into our sources, we then clean, which you can watch some of the videos in my previous playlist. We talk about the cleaning pipeline where we strip boilerplate from all this stuff so the embeddings aren't compromised and you actually get the semantic, kind of centroid of what's being talked about rather than just all the bullshit FAR clauses and all this other stuff that doesn't mean anything to the actual contract award. Long story short, you can semantic search over 50 million vectors, records, so awards, solicitations, audits, things of that nature, documents, and chunks of those documents. Now, again, for those who are less technically versed, What's the difference between a document and a chunk? A chunk, you can think of it as just a half-page snippet of a large document. So when you create an embedding, you have a context window, very much like you have a context window in ChatGPT or in Claude or in Gemini, where your conversation compacts and then it moves to a next session. That's called truncation. And basically, in order to get all of the granular semantics from a document, you can't just embed the first 50 pages. You know, say it's a 275 page long budget justification. I'm going to lose some of the meaning of that budget justification if it truncates at 50 pages. So we do both, which gives you a granular kind of window into the documents, and then more of an overview where it's like the high level meaning of what that document's talking about. So the tool is corpus search. You can search by different corpus types, like I said. Awards, National Institution of Health, SBIR, GAO, CRS, strategy, budget, blah, blah, blah. You can search by department codes. You can search by document types. You can say, I don't want any documents going past 2015, blah, 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 blah. And then you have a document type reference here, which just goes over all the different stuff that you can query by. And obviously we supply this in different packages depending on what subscription tier you are adherent to. Now, we're going to come into our evidence and claims. Now, this is some of the more advanced analytics where we think of ourselves like detectives, right? Where we're looking for signals or clues within all of this data, right? So, long story short, you have the ability to, how do I say this simply? Measure the integrity of your evidence. So if you think of yourself as a detective, everything that you lay out on the table, so imagine it's that whiteboard with all of the pins in, red, what is that called? Rope or strings between all of the pins. Not every string or connection or pin carries the same weight. So say, for example, it's kind of the difference between an eyewitness testimony and then finding somebody's fingerprints at the scene. Get it? One of them is way more credible than the other. So this is how do we weight this evidence when it comes down to making a particular decision or analyzing a particular area of the government. We can go into this in depth at another time. So knowledge graphs, right? I think when I was going over the keyword graph, I mentioned knowledge graphs, but I really meant keywords. So this is the literal knowledge graph that we use that is defined by our in-house ontology. Now, if you don't know what an ontology is, that should be a prerequisite for this video. I'm not going to explain it here. You can look it up. Long story short, we have 11 entity types and 28 link types. So what are the things, and then all the possible connections between those things that could exist in this ecosystem? It's the study of how things work, I guess. If you want to look it up, Alex Karp is obsessed with this word. It's one of the things that Palantir is built on. But long story short, these are all the things that you can query by. You can query by topics, subcontractors, vendors, awards, agencies. Long story short, this gives you all of the literal connections between the pieces of data. So this RFP links to this award. This award links to this audit. This audit links to this government accountability report. This government accountability report links to this budget that came a year later to appropriate for whatever remediation was fucked up by that vendor. Make sense? Okay, cool. Advanced analytics. This is where things get complicated, and this will probably require 2 different videos for me to go over. But long story short, this is where we start building our patterns, anomalies, and predictive analysis and different statistical models to represent um, different functions within the government. So the easiest one is concentration, right? So this index, I call it, I'm just going to use the acronym because I'm not going to butcher that term, is a, not algorithm, but an equation, if you will, for measuring the concentrate. It was originally a way for the government to analyze monopolies. So General Electric is all over the electric scene. And we need to break up that monopoly because this index says so. So you could say, what is the concentration of missile defense within the Army? What is the concentration of book procurement within the Library of Congress? Is it a single vendor? Is it 15 vendors? And then what is the share of all those 15 vendors? And blah, blah, blah. Topic seasonality. So after we built all of our 600 topic models, we then say, how do these topics progress over time? Because we have award data in congressional bills that go back to the 90s. So are there particular programs or procurement patterns that appear in certain years that don't exist anymore? Or the things that have become popular only recently? This gives you and your business or your portfolio analysis the ability to basically traverse how government language changes over time. Topic emergence trends, basically the same thing. Anomalies. So in a separate video, we'll go over all the 15 classes of anomalies that exist. So depreciation, appreciation, extinction, etc. So different anomalies that may appear throughout the procurement lifecycle. We also do Markov lifecycle transitions. If you want to look that up, you can. We compute tensors and strategy to award lag analysis, vendor win prediction, topic time series and lifecycle stages, all that good stuff. If you want to, you can pause the video, look at all these and the descriptions, and or look them up yourself. But like I said, we'll create a video on this going in depth on this particular topic in later on in the series. Now, as we start to wrap it up, you can build different intelligence artifacts with the click of a button using this product. Now, how? Like I said, we've pre-computed all of the analytics here. So all it has to do is go grab the information. And you can build a research brief. So this is like a market overview. So if you're a private equity analyst and you are trying to build a business in DHS, you can say, give me the latest on what Congress is saying about DHS procurement, or what vendors are participating in there, what's popular right now, what's getting the most money, how can I position to acquire the best company in this space. You can go deep on an agency and build a profile around them. You can build a capture plan if you're a contractor. Where should I position my strategy for the next 4 years as it pertains to my alignment of capabilities with a customer's needs? You can build competitive briefs, diligence memos, recompete watch lists. So basically expiring contracts and their likelihood to go out for recompete based on a few simple factors. Market entry analysis, teaming analysis, and budget alignment, along with a few other that aren't listed here that will be coming out soon. So this means you can query the endpoint or plug in the MCP tool to Claude and say, generate this artifact. And then there's an orchestrate capture tool, which pulls in 6 different intelligence modules into one call and basically gives you an agentic workflow to build whatever document is of interest to you. Next, we can go on to our source material. Now, this is something that's available to basically all users that subscribe to the first tier. And this is just the raw information that we use to build all of our intelligence products. So if you wanted to sort by different corpus types, like say I wanted to pull all of the audit records in this table, You're obviously going to be rate limited and blah, 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 so you can't like download the whole database. But the source material is source material, right? And one of the, I guess, main moats here, and there's another company I'll drop called MakeGov, Tango, does this stuff as well. So do I. I could very well offer what they offer as well, and I kind of am leaning towards doing that, which is offering all of the source material for basically a lower cost. So if you wanted to pull raw contract actions. So as you can see, this is raw FPDS data, and I can scroll on forever. There's like 380 columns of this. If you wanted to do your own manual analysis of the source material, you can. Or say I wanted to pull all of OPM's employment records. So this is 500,000 employees that have worked for the government since the 90s. Every single one. As you can see. Long story short, if you wanted to, you can pull grants. You can pull different PSC codes or NAICS codes to get the taxonomy of the government. Like I said, it's just the source material. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining that. And then another tool is SQL lookup. We will be retiring this service pretty soon because we're just offering the stuff through all these other products. And then, of course, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but our MCP server takes all of these tools and then gives you a MCP server to plug directly into Claude, Cursor, Gemini, any other tool that has MCP capabilities so that your AI solution can interface with our tooling directly without you having to teach it to, basically, right? And then if you're a developer, we do offer a early preview of our software development kit, where, again, if you know what an SDK is, cool. You'll probably be happy that this exists if you're an analyst at a large company. But long story short, you can build custom intelligence products using our data. That's what this is. It's like I said, it's if any of you have ever bought like a model, like me and my dad used to build these like model boats and model cars. So you don't have to come up with what the car is going to look like. You just build the pieces, put it together, and it runs, right? So that might be a shit example, but anyway, you get the point. And then we also spell out the ontology classes here and what we offer. We don't offer every single entity type in the SDK. We may at a later time, but like I said, this is in an early preview. And then, of course, you got the glossary here, so it'll just talk about the core concepts, different object types, link types, department codes, how we built our own canonical code prefix. So there's different codes in FPDS and USA Spending and SAM and grants and OPM and the FAC. So we basically just built a backbone and then assigned all these different department codes to a singular prefix, which would be like department, DOD, or office, blah, 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 or sub-agency, blah, 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 right? And then a crosswalk is that, assignment of those to the backbone. We have our different tier access for subscriptions. Methodology is in here as well. You can read a little bit about this here. It's not fully inclusive. I will do a fully inclusive, methods and how this thing was made at a later date, like I said. And then you can read about some of the tools and technologies that we've used to build this thing. Again, like I said, not all inclusive, but that's about where we stand. Not going to go over the pricing today, but long story short, we have a flexible pricing model. We'll be offering a pay-as-you-go model as well. So you think about using AI, token-based billing, kind of the same thing. And yeah, we are flexible for small businesses all the way up to large enterprise firms and, different custom solutions as well. So thank you for watching. If you made it to this point, 40 minutes all the way through, I do sincerely appreciate it. If not, you can speed up the video by 2 times. That's what I do for most things. and or extrapolate the transcript, put it into Chat GPT, and just whatever you want. But anyway, my name's been Nathan Kalosa-Kenyon. This has been the introduction and overview of FPDS, all of what we have built, kind of its utility in applications. We'll go over it at a later time, but thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day, and cheers to you. Best of luck for whatever you may be doing and using this for. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me for questions. I'll drop my email and LinkedIn in the description if YouTube lets me. But without further ado, thank you very much, and cheers, folks.